there's something really nice about working with something very, very simple like a knife. It's such a simple concept. It's such a primal thing, but the thing with that is that there's very, very little space to hide. All the knives start off as several different types of steel. These two different types of steel, these get stacked up into a pile a bit like this. They get tacked together, and then this whole block of steel goes into the forge. It gets taken all up to welding temperature, so it goes to a bright yellow, and then I forge them together under a hammer, and they become one piece of steel. So it's constantly changing shape and changing form. It goes from a lump like this to a lump that's this long and a lot thinner. The weld really takes place when you draw it out more. As you forge it down, it separates and splits open and reveals fresh metal with no oxide. So as you squash it, it gets longer, and anything that is in there, that might be in there, splits, and you get a better weld. And then I cut it and clean it all up with an angle grinder, and then restack it, retack it, and then once that forging process is done, I end up with one piece of steel with 48 alternating layers in it. Once I've got to that stage, I put a core in. So this is when the 01 tool steel comes back in again. So the top piece here has got 48 layers, the bottom piece here has got 48 layers, and then there's a piece of very, very clean 01 tool steel in the middle, which forms the core and the cutting edge of the blade at the end. This piece of steel here will get squashed together and pulled out and drawn out until it's about 5 mil thick. And after that, I chop that up again into smaller sections, and then each section of that will become an individual knife. The top and the bottom basically create the pattern, create the aesthetic that I'm looking for in the knife, and also help protect the core whilst it's in a heating process, and it stops it leaching carbon, and basically treats the steel as sympathetically as I can to create the finest cutting edge that I can. So this piece of steel here is the fine line that runs down the spine of all of my knives, and it's also the very, very, very sharp piece of steel that runs down the cutting edge. Once I've forged this, I can cut this using a plasma cutter or an angle grinder or a hot chisel if I like, and then I can form the handle. I then drill the holes before it's heat treated. Once I've heat treated the steel, I can't drill it. Even the hardest drill bits I can get won't drill the steel that I make my knives out of. After that, I then take them to the grinder. I give it a little bit more profile. I clean up all of the rough edges, and I start taking the edge down, so the edge becomes progressively thinner, and I start off on very, very aggressive belts. So after a lot of grinding, you end up with something which is ready for polishing. Once I've reached a mirror polish and really, really refined the surface of the steel, then it goes into ferric chloride to etch. I basically dunk it into acid occasionally just so I can see how the pattern's developing and what I'm doing. Some of the steel has got a nickel content, so that part of the steel stays shiny, and the other steel gets slowly etched away, which goes a dark colour. This is roughly the pattern you'll get once it's finished. Once the edge is ground down a bit more and it's got thinner, you'll see more of a laminate. But as I do that bit by bit, I'll reveal the core, and I'll know exactly where I'm going to be grinding. It's looking all right. It's looking good. So once it's out of the etch, I clean the oxides off. The edge can be sharpened, and it's ready to have a handle put on it, and that's ready to be sent off. Being a chef for a long time and working with these tools every day and working with these knives every day, when I come to make them, I spend a lot of time holding them and just like moving them around and trying to get the weight and the feel right and the balance, because there's something important about something that feels right in the hand, and when it does feel right, you really know, and it's almost like a sign of when to stop.